So anyway, just to kind of give you a quick overview so I know I don't have long. She said 10 minutes, so my wife says you can't even start a conversation in 10 minutes. So anyway, I want to just try to, I said, what am I going to say in such a short amount of time? So I'll tell just a little bit about me, but I want to give you a more clear reason why I'm running, I guess, and maybe just a fast forward of what got me here. But so I've been a FedEx courier in DeSoto County pretty much my whole working career. 37 years with FedEx. I retired 2.5 years ago during COVID, and it broke me. They were working us 12 hours a day while everybody else was sitting home. I retired, and so basically I delivered to most of the homes here and in DeSoto County. My route actually when I retired was Lewisburg, Cockram, and Hernando on the east side of Hernando. So I did that for the last 20 years. So if you don't know about this district, they changed up the whole state district, and they really hadn't educated everybody yet on it. I even have a judge told me that's in DeSoto County, says, I don't even know where my district lines are. So that's kind of how they threw it on us. I don't know exactly why we weren't educated, and I didn't know about our district until 2 weeks before the deadline on signing up. To let you kind of know who I am, so I'm a grassroots worker. And what is a grassroots worker? Well, I had a defining moment a few years back that our country was going in an area I didn't like in a political situation, and I said, I went to bed that night thinking that it was other people's fault. And then in the middle of the night, I woke up and I said, it's not other people's fault, it's my fault. Because what was I doing? I wasn't doing a whole lot to engage the system of getting candidates to run that I would favor. And so I woke up and I said, what can I do? So that's when I went to the first GOP Republican, and I am running as a Republican, but that was when I went to the first meeting, and I said, hey, I want to do something to try to promote conservative values in Mississippi, and that's kind of my defining moment. And that's when I started to vetting people to run for office, and I did that for 10 years on a very engaged financial commitment out of my own pocket, doing these things without making donations, mainly in labor. And I would actually recruit candidates, and I have recruited candidates to run, and 4 or 5. I actually campaigned for Chris McDaniel 2 times, and I campaigned for Ted Cruz in this county. And it was, I will say, Ted Cruz, we were the only county in the whole state of Mississippi that we won. Out of the 82 counties, DeSoto was the only one that went Ted Cruz. We worked really hard. Not that at the time I was against Trump, against Line Ted, but then when Ted Cruz lost and Trump won, I did support Trump. And we did get him elected too. So that's a little bit how I got into politics, is just from a grassroots area. Now, so when I explain why am I running, well, I'm running because, one is they redistricted us, and so the 6 lower precincts in our district, there's 15 precincts in the District 19, and they brought us into District 19, and I knew immediately that my state senator was not where he should be. And because I follow all of them in the state, there's 52 state senators, and our state senator that we have in our district has his conservative rating, his American Conservative Union score is 63, and if you know anything about that, that is not good. It's graded basically the same way school grades you. So if you have a 63, he has a lifetime score of 63. So If you had a lifetime score in school at 63, that would not be good if you're a conservative. So that's actually left of Mitt Romney. A lot of people don't understand this. So if you like Mitt Romney, then I'm probably not your guy. I'm not your guy. So the candidate I'm running against is left of Mitt Romney in conservative values. So I knew immediately that we had a problem. I spent 2 weeks trying to get somebody to run against him because the last 2 times he ran, he was unopposed. And I just feel like we need an option to have an option. If you want a Mitt Romney, then you vote for Kevin. If you want something conservative, we needed another option. Now I talked to several people to run, and I couldn't get anybody to say yes. It's kind of normal for that. It is a $23,000 a year paying job, which it's hard to talk people into going to Jackson for 3 months. It's not a high paying job, it really isn't. Most people don't understand that. I'm retired. I was really like the position I'm in. I'm a hoppy, so that's what my job is now, taking care of grandkids. Every other week, my oldest son went through a divorce, and he has his kids every other week, and hoppy helps, That's my position. But I couldn't talk anybody into running, and I could not live with it just being one person. That's when I got the call, and my wife says, okay, go ahead and do this, and with reservations, of course. And so I went and signed up. And so what am I going to say today? I want to explain that score, because most people, so I've been doing grassroots. What I do is a door knocker. I did it my whole life professionally for FedEx. And so that's what I've always done against grassroots. I go knock the doors for these candidates. And so I talk to the people. And I can tell you, 95% of the people have no idea when you start saying judging conservative. So I will say, most people are conservative. All people, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, most people are conservative by nature. If you judge their conservative score and you wrote down all these values and they didn't know what they were filling out, and they said everything on the paper that what they believe in, they would have a pretty good, strong conservative score. That's a true statement. The problem is when we vote on, I just had a conversation with somebody. They said we vote on how many signs they saw, or they just recognize the person's face, or they recognize their name. Most voters do that. It's sad to say that's how most people get elected. That's not good. So I want to explain about the conservative score. The American Conservative Union has been around since like the 60s. And it's the barometer of judging conservative. No matter what party you're in, no matter if you're a federal elector, if you're a federal position or a state level, they judge you by every bill. And it's either you voted conservative or you voted non-conservative. That's how they judge you, and they vote every bill. So when you pull it up, this is all you got to do. Everybody should go to the computer. You punch in American Conservative Union, ACU scorecard, and you pull it up, and it can ask you for a candidate's name, and you just punch in their name. And if they're a current incumbent, it'll pull it up and it'll tell you their score. Lifetime score, you can check yearly, but it'll have their lifetime score. It's very important that we do that on incumbents, because I would have never ran if my incumbent had a low C. I might not even ran if he had a high D, but he has an F. He has a low F. And so what's surprising in DeSoto County, you say, well, is DeSoto County a conservative county? It is not a conservative county, because our average score of our 3 state senators is 59, that's very low. So I can tell you in 2014, statewide Republicans in 2014, if you looked at every Republican, the average was 94. So if our 3 state senators' lifetime score is 59 on average, that's not good, y'all. I will say the whole state's gone south in our values. We see it in our schools. We see it in our lifestyles. We see it everywhere we look. And it doesn't settle with me to the point where I'm going to come out of retirement from being hoppy. And then if you see my grandkids on there, being hoppy to having to do something to go down. All right, my number one, you see all four of my I'm not going to explain all these except one, and then I'm going to sit down, or I can take questions. Really, all four of mine are bipartisan. These aren't even Republican. This is not even Republican things. These are bipartisan. My number one thing I think our state needs to get us out of the problems that we're in is term limits. We're in gridlock. Lobbyists are controlling our people that we elect. And I'm 100% on board with trying to be the 17th state to bring term limits to our legislator in Jackson. I have a path. I'll go ahead and tell you the path. So Chris McDaniel has authored term limits 16 years in a row in the Senate. All 16 years, it would not come out of committee. He started with Bill Bryant, it was Tate Reeves, and now Delbert Hoseman. All 16 years he's authored it, they would not let it out of committee. They all say they're for it. All the Democrats say they're for it. All the Republicans say they're for it. All the state, everybody says they're for it. Can we find anybody that's not for term limits? No, I can't find them at the door. I can't find them in the other party. I can't find them in our party. Everybody wants it. So Chris authored it, but they won't let it out of committee. So he came 2 months ago at Cedar Hill Farms to speak. There was about 200 people in there. And so after he gave his speech, he asked for town hall questions. I was the first hand that went up. I had my cowboy hat on. And I said, Chris, you've offered term limit bill in the Senate 16 years in a row. If I take your bill, if you get elected lieutenant governor, and I take your bill, and I copy and paste the bill, and I have it in committee, and I'm in a committee in it, we have that bill in committee, are you gonna do like the other three predecessors you had that wouldn't let it out of your committee? Are you gonna do the same thing? Chris answered, Walter, if I get elected and you or somebody else authors this bill, not only will I let it out of committee for everybody to vote on, doesn't mean it's gonna get voted yes or no, but he says if I let it out of committee, and he says the first bill, it would not only be let out of committee, it would be the first bill out of committee. I have this dream. I know that's used a lot by politicians. MLK said it. And I did. I witnessed MLK walk right in front of my house. I was about 3 years old. It's still in my memory banks. I was standing after my grandfather, and they all walked. And it was an imprint in my mind. Later in life, as you study history, the magnitude of that moment was really big for me because I actually saw it go by. I have this vision of being the 17th state to have term limits. I have this vision of getting that bill passed, and I feel like that would be the main reason why God called me to run for this position. I have this dream of, if it really happened, and I know I couldn't do this because I've taken money from donors and I would have to be there 4 years. It wouldn't be right to take money. But if it was the first bill, I have this dream of getting the term limits trophy and walking back up 51 Highway all the way back to DeSoto County like MLK went to Jackson. I don't want to compare that to MLK. It's not even but I watched that, and it would be no crowd. It would just be in my mind that I did something that I felt like this state needs to release us from the chains of lobbyists, and I don't like using that word corruption. It's not really corruption, it's unethical behaviors that are happening in politics. I just feel like that if we had term limits, it would be maybe a point when we're not bonded to so much. It happens to everybody. We've sent good people down there, and it changes. And I've even had them tell me it changes. You just don't understand. So I don't want to understand it. I want term limits.